This is the 14th lesson in a big series where I'm teaching deep dive lessons on the top 25 jazz standards for guitar players. There's a link to a playlist of this entire series in the description. The song we are learning today is number 14 on the list, and it is Alone Together. If you're here to just learn the chords or just the melody or just looking for one aspect of it, how to solo on it, just use the timestamp links in the description to go to that section that you're looking for, because this is very comprehensive. We cover a bunch of stuff, but it's very organized. There's links in the description to each section. Here's what we're going to cover in this lesson. First, I'll tell you about the song Alone Together and why it's worth learning. Then I'll teach you the melody by clearly demonstrating it on the guitar with notation and tab on the screen. I'll teach you both the easiest chord shapes you can play and the more common jazz guitar chord shapes for this song, all with chord diagrams on the screen. I'll teach you the scales you can use to improvise over Alone Together with demonstrations, with scale diagrams on the screen. And every lesson in this series also includes a unique piece of advice for how to truly internalize a jazz standard on the guitar, something you can apply to any other song and really work on your musicianship, so I will share that. And lastly, I will give you a guitar listening recommendation for this song. You can access and download the learning resources from this whole lesson series, the scale diagrams, the chord diagrams, the scale sheets that show you what scales you can play over the chord progression, and resources for my other lessons as well by becoming a premium supporter on my website or through Patreon. There's a link in the description to those two options. You'll get PDFs of the chord progression, lead sheet, scale breakdown, sheets for soloing, scale diagrams, chord shape diagrams, a custom-made backing track with me comping. You'll get everything except for the melody sheet music when I don't own the rights to it, unless it's a public domain song, but you can learn the melody very easily from the video because that's the point of it. I'm demonstrating it so clearly there. So join and support and get all those extra resources with those links in the description, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/join. Alone Together was composed by Arthur Schwartz with lyrics by Howard Dietz in 1932, originally for the Broadway musical called Flying Colors. Although it started as a ballad, it has become a staple jazz standard, and it's frequently played as a medium or even up-tempo swing tune. Now, this tune stands out because of its rich, dark harmonic movement and the minor key setting. It uses a lot of 2/5 progressions and modulations, making it a perfect study for our kind of classic functional harmony that we see on so many tunes, but also navigating non-diatonic changes, that is, chord changes that are outside of a single key. Alone Together has been recorded by jazz giants like Chet Baker, Jim Hall, Bill Evans, Grant Green, and countless others, and it's a must-know tune at jam sessions and gigs. This one is one of my personal favorites. Let's learn the melody to Alone Together. I'll play the melody with guitar tab and notation on the screen now, and I encourage you to practice along with this demonstration as you're working on getting it down. Here it is at 125 beats per minute. Let's look at the chords here. Really cool stuff going on. Really familiar stuff going on. As you play more jazz and as you learn more tunes, it's just such a language. Let's look at this progression right here for a second. We got this A half diminished, minor 7 flat 5, same thing. D7 flat 9, G minor 6. Exactly the progression from Autumn Leaves, which was the first video in this series. If you spent months working on Autumn Leaves or that progression, well, then if it comes up now in this tune, like precisely the same, maybe even a similar tempo that you might play this song, well, then you're just ready to rip it on that. And when that happens, it's very exciting. And there's this sense of, oh, it's such a language. And as you learn more, it just snowballs and snowballs, and you can just truly start to see the similarities between all these tunes and hone in what you're working on to give yourself the biggest benefit. Work on learning the tunes themselves, really learning the melody, internalizing the songs. That's why I'm teaching this series, because I want you to actually know a bunch of real tunes and see how they are all connected, instead of just some jazz licks or a few progressions here and there, or just one song that you worked on forever. Really cool stuff happening here. A minor 6 chord as kind of a tonic minor. This is very common. We've seen it in other places in the series. Tons of minor 2-5-1s happening. And this here is a key change. So it's very much D minor, 2-5 D minor, 2-5 to D minor, and then we have 2-5 to G minor. This is the 4 chord of this key. So it's going 2-5 to the minor 4 chord of this key. But then we just have a very strange key change here, where we go to B minor and E7. It's very unrelated. So this is an unrelated key, and we're just doing a 2-5 and then down a major third to a 2-5 to F major. That's very strategic. This is the weird part. This is going to the relative major of the key. D minor is the relative minor of F major. F major is the relative major of D minor. So that's really typical. And then from the relative major, half step down to 2-5 back to the tonic of the key is very typical. And as you do more of these tunes, you'll just feel and see that happening a ton, even if you don't know how to recognize it right away or talk about it. This is also a unique identifying part of the song, that we are not landing on D minor here, we're landing on D major. And the melody is such a identifying moment of the melody there, where we land on the F sharp, which is the note that makes it major. And it's this beautiful major chord arrival point in this otherwise very dark minor song. So that's such a moment to listen for, identify, target, that kind of thing. And then it's really cool. It's major, and then it just goes right back to minor. So those are just a couple things worth talking about. The bridge, like we said, is that minor 2-5-1, same as Autumn Leaves. And then we have another minor 2-5 to the F major, which is that major key that is the relative major of the key. And then we're going back into this that we had before. And then we have a little bit of a busier end here, kind of wrapping it back around. I love this type of cadence resolution that's happening here. This is a flat 6 dominant 7 chord to the 5 dominant 7 chord to the 1. So instead of a 2-5-1, it's a flat 6-5-1. So anyway, just like to point things out. If any of that's over your head, that's okay. It's just something to hear. If you caught any one little thing that's helpful, don't worry about understanding all of it all the time. As you learn more, all those gaps will get filled in. Definitely. That's how it feels for everybody at first. It's just like drinking from the fire hose, and it's good to be exposed to the terminologies and language and stuff like that. Let's go to just learning the chords themselves. I'll play them for you with chord shapes on the screen so you can get them down. Now I'll play you 2 different versions of the chord shapes for Alone Together. I'll play each chord once, each time a chord changes, and I'll show you the chord shape diagrams on the screen. I encourage you to practice along with these demonstrations as you're working on getting the chords down. First, I will play you the chords using the simplest chord shapes possible. These are often called shell voicings, and they are widely used in jazz. Here's that demonstration at 125 beats per minute. play you the more common jazz guitar chord shapes for Alone Together. These have an extra note in them and they fill out the sound a little more. This demonstration is also at 125 beats per minute. I will explain a couple of my chord voicing choices there. This is just typical D minor 6, typical minor 2-5, back to a D minor. This A7, so we got the 1 chord, the 2, the 5, D minor 6, E half diminished, A7. Well, it says on the lead sheet A7 flat 9, and I've said several times in this series, but I don't expect everyone to watch every video of the series, and people keep asking about this. Well, when there's a flat 9, you can play flat 13. That is flat 13 there. It's not sharp 5, it's flat 13. And that means that this note is still there. That's a scale that comes from. So A7 flat 9, I'm interpreting very often if I'm playing with the root on the 6th string, I'm just going to play the flat 13 there because it means the flat 13 and the flat 9 are both there. If I'm playing flat 9 like the D7 flat 9 that comes up in a few measures later, here's D7 with the flat 9, and that's the voicing I'm playing there. So kind of a great starter default, if you see dominant 7 flat 9, play this version with flat 13 off the 6th string and play this version with the actual flat 9 here off the 5th string. So if you do see a chord that says, if it said A7 flat 9, or if it said A7 flat 13, you can play the flat 9. If it says flat 9, you can play the flat 13. So clarifying that. Moving on to measure 9, where it is a B minor 7 to E7 and then G minor 7 to C7. Well, I'm playing, it's a great opportunity to play a minor 11 voicing. This is B minor 11. This is B minor shell voicing here, just 7th fret, 7th fret, 7th fret, and then 2nd string on the 5th fret there is the 11. You can add an 11 to a minor chord anytime. That's in the melody. That is the melody note. So it's just kind of a cool color to play with the chords as well, and then shift to this. That's the way I played those chords there. And then because I played the 11 there, I decided the G minor, instead of this typical voicing with this 3rd finger here, which is the 5 of the chord, you lift that off and you get this voicing that's all stacked fourths, and it is a G minor 11. Here's the root, 11, flat 7, flat 3. So I played that because also the 11 is in that spot right there in the melody, and so I'm just coloring the chord with that. And then I played C13, even though it just says C7, you can add the 13 to anything, anytime. So just wanted to explain a couple of those things because I know questions come up when I demonstrate and don't explain those. Next, I will show you 2 different options for the scales you need to be able to improvise and solo over the Alone Together chord progression. I will demonstrate and show diagrams of all the scales in one specific overlapping position on the fretboard. Let me explain the scales first with a scales lead sheet. So here's the fun stuff, here's the tricky stuff. What scales can you use to improvise over this? Where this is my complete scales lead sheet, which is just breaking down what is every scale that each chord comes from. Now right off the bat, we have a chord that is easily interpreted with two different types of scales because D Dorian includes all of the notes of this chord, D minor 6, but also D melodic minor includes all of the notes inside D minor 6. So very often, especially when it's treated as the tonic of a tune, I like to play, or if it's treated as the minor 4 in a chord progression, I play melodic minor for minor 6. However, and this is great because I just had someone email and ask about this, and I kind of said, yeah, I like melodic minor when it's the main chord of the tune, but do whatever sounds best to you. Well, here's a case right here where this is what sounds better to me. Plus, I like to do my research and kind of see how are other people treating this, and listen to other players and see what they're playing. And Dorian having the flat 7 in this case on this tune is what feels right to me. But this is a great a great moment to just tell you, do whatever sounds good to you. I'm giving you a default, and I have this core philosophy that we want to have a default option to sound fluent with, because no one cares if you play the flat 7 there or the major 7. I promise you, no one cares. They care if it feels good, if it flows, if you have good phrasing, if you're communicating something, if you're listening to the other players, if you're playing with other people or whatever, right? So you can play a great phrase or a great idea with whatever scale. You can even go outside of the scale. Well, it doesn't matter. But so let's have an option that works for us. And that's why I make these sheets, because it's like, hey, if you can play with those notes and play something tasteful, yes, later add chromaticism, add weirdness, add enclosures, add extra harmonic information, whatever. But this is the basic stuff that it comes from. We want to be able to play through a tune, period. Can we play through a tune? Then get fancy later. So my preference here is D Dorian for that chord. And then this minor 2-5 is D harmonic minor. And if you're studying along with me in this series, that is just burned into your brain now. Okay, the minor 2-5, half diminished to dominant 7 with a flat 9, which also indicates that it has flat 13 in it. That comes from the harmonic minor scale that it's pointing to. 2, 5, 1 would be D minor, D harmonic minor. So tricky to switch between scales here, but you can also play a lot of common notes in that you can create a study for yourself where you loop this progression and avoid the 7 altogether, and avoid the 6 as well, avoid the 6 and 7. And then just play the other notes, which you have 5 notes that are common between these, and you can play great musical ideas there. So I'll demonstrate that kind of stuff. I'll do a special video on it in the future, so make sure you are subscribed. So we got D Dorian, we got D harmonic minor, back to D Dorian, D harmonic minor, D Dorian, and we're getting further along in the series here, and I'm kind of increasing harmonic complexity as we go through this series. So don't let this stress you out. The biggest thing, the most important thing is that you know where you are in the form. That matters way more than if you're playing all these right notes. Play some wrong notes. Who cares? Do you know where you are? Play some wrong notes. It does not matter. And then these bigger areas kind of matter. Like, can you kind of play whatever D minor-ish all throughout here and then land on G minor here? That's going to sound good. Okay. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I have a simplified scale sheet that I'm going to show you next where we can intentionally ignore stuff. So this is just meant to be truly, these are the scales that these chords come from. Okay, so we got G harmonic minor and then G Dorian. Why is this? I'll talk about that later here for this G minor 6. So G Dorian, well, this G minor 7 chord, it's not just going to another key. This is important to look at the whole context of a tune. 2, 5, 1. You might say, oh yeah, it modulated to a different chord. No, this is the 4 of the key. So this is landing on the 4 chord of the key. 4 chord in a minor key is always minor. It's minor 7 if you had a 7. Okay, so now we're moving on to this, which is A major briefly, this kind of outside key area. Very cool, beautiful. This is one of those distant, weird areas, unusual harmonic movement there for a tune. A lot of this stuff is very kind of language oriented. Sometimes you get these weird things. These kinds of moments that are unique, where I'm like, okay, that's not just a typical thing that every jazz standard does as far as going to this different area harmonically. Those are the moments that make a tune what they are. That's what that feels. This moment feels like this song in particular. Okay, then we're going to, great, 2, 5, 1 in F major. So the scale there is F major. And then we know what goes on here. This is the harmonic minor. And then this is that quintessential sound of this tune that lands on, unexpectedly, surprise, we land on D major and the melody lands on F major, the note, and then it goes back to minor after that. So we talked about that in the melody section. Great, then we have the bridge, and we just have a 2-5-1 harmonic minor, G harmonic minor to G Dorian. Now, here's another minor 6 chord where I very often will treat it as melodic minor, and I even said when it's the 4 chord of a key, I'll treat it as melodic minor. But this also, being the 2 of the key, I like to treat it as Dorian. Now, and I will do a video on this in the future, what's really hip is if you just think, great, minor 6, and you're not thinking Dorian and you're not thinking melodic minor, you're just thinking, yes, this minor chord, of course it can use the major 7, which melodic minor has, or of course it can use the flat 7, which Dorian has. And you're not thinking one or the other, it's just melodically what you want to hear. And I have a way to work on that that's really fun that we'll talk about in another video. But for now, get an option that works. So G Dorian is my recommendation. Good, we have 2-5-1. We know how to work this stuff now. This is the 2 and the 5 of F minor, so it's F harmonic minor there. And this is just an F major chord. And that's F major key. This is the relative major of D minor. So that means that F major is the same scale as D natural minor. It is. It's the relative major scale of that. So then we have D harmonic minor, because that's another 2-5. And then all this business here, which is the same as above. Okay, so with D Dorian, D harmonic minor, D Dorian, D harmonic minor, D Dorian, and then something funky and different. We have this flat 6 dominant 7 chord resolving down a half step to the 5. Okay, the scale here, yes, it's only 2 beats, but we're writing out what are all the scales that everything comes from. B flat Lydian dominant. Okay, it's like a mixed Lydian scale, which is major scale with a flat 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1, but it also has a sharp 4. That's the difference. So it's like a Mixolydian scale with a sharp 4, and very cool sound. Do you have enough time to really explore that scale in those 2 beats? No, of course not. Do you want to still try to learn how to switch and feel that sound for those 2 beats? Yes, eventually. So then it goes down to the 5 here, and D Dorian, and back to another 2-5-1 back to the top. So as things get more complex here, it's going to feel more impossible, and that's why it's important we do the simplified scales next. And stuff like this, I like to be in the practice laboratory, truly outlining it. Truly outlining, yes, the chord tones. I do that a lot. I talk about chord tones a lot on my channel, improvising with chord tones. But yes, even nailing the scale in that moment there. Am I hitting the sharp 4? I don't know. It depends on where I was when that chord came up. Am I near it? Yes, I'll probably hit it. If I'm not, I won't. I like to really be precise in my practice for that. But then when I actually play, forget it all. Who cares? Do something here that leads to here. That's it. What is that asking for? Do something in this area that leads to this, right? That could be ignoring this and just playing as if it's A7. That could just be playing something funky and out and weird and random and landing on a nice D minor chord tone. Okay, so I'm emphasizing a lot of that stuff now because I know it's going to get more and more overwhelming as you see these scales changing. And oh my gosh, 2 beats of a scale changing, crazy. So in your practice, be perfect with it. In your playing, be an artist. Be expressive, be loose, be okay with it, making mistakes. And as you play real music and say, man, I am just kind of doing that faking thing Jared said I could do every time here. And it does sound good, but I also feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Even though it sounds good, I want to kind of be able to nail that. Great. Then your playing time shows you what you should do in the practice. And then you let go of it all and play. And then you go back and practice and you let go of it all and play. So anyway, I digress. I like to talk about all of these things. Let's jump to demonstrating all of these on the guitar so you have them with scale diagrams that you can practice with, and then we'll demonstrate improvising with it too. Then we'll do the simplified scales. So here's demonstrations of all those scales with diagrams on the screen for you, so you can come back and study these with the video if you want to. This first one is D Dorian. I'm going to play all these scales starting on the lowest possible root in this 5th fret-ish position that I'm in, and playing up and down the whole thing and then landing on that same root. It's not quite my exact root-to-root method that I've talked about in other videos, but I like to do it this way sometimes to still hone in on the root, but not stop on all the roots. So here's D Dorian. Next scale is D harmonic minor. Next scale is G harmonic minor. Next scale is G Dorian. Next scale is A major. Next scale is F major. Next scale is D major. Next scale is F harmonic minor. Next scale is B flat Lydian dominant. This is the same thing as F melodic minor. It's a mode of melodic minor. And you can see how, wow, okay, you got to know all of these different shapes to be able to play them in this one area. If you just know one shape per scale, then you're going to be shifting all around the fretboard. So I love this method of keeping everything in one area because it forces me to know all the physical shapes and vocabulary that then can apply to the whole guitar and every key later on. So those are all the scales and the diagrams for you that are in this tune. Now I will demonstrate soloing through the form using those scales. And keep in mind during these demonstrations, I'm intentionally trying to stay strictly using the scales. So I'm not going outside with other types of ideas and I'm avoiding chromatic notes. I'm avoiding stuff I usually would do in my improvisation because I want to show you how it's possible just with the scales to play something that should feel good, just the correct scale at the correct time. And I'm also sticking exactly to where I demonstrated it in this position on the guitar. And I try to keep my phrasing and ideas simple because I want you to know that you can play through this tune really simply with the right notes in the right place and make something that feels really good. Though I do tend to like to do scale runs that sometimes are fast with slurs and stuff like that. But otherwise I am trying to keep it pretty simple. Okay, so like I've been saying, your goal is to be able to play through the tune. And that takes priority over nailing all the precise changes. I love working on nailing all the precise changes, believe me. But what use is that if we don't have a sense for just being able to play through the whole tune? This simplified scales concept is absolutely magical. And it's not a like beginner method or some kind of shortcut. It is truly what amazing jazz musicians are doing. They're thinking in huge, big, broad strokes. Look at this. We had all those scales changing before, and now the simplified scale version is that you can just think D natural minor, same as F major scale, through all of this until here. Now you can't keep that going here, but what is all of this doing? It's just this very D minor sound. When it goes to this 4 chord, that's the 4 chord of D minor, same key. When it goes to this F major chord, that is the 3 chord of D minor. It's all just diatonically D minor. Now, the trick is, of course, that your phrasing and your feel and, the spaces that you take and your accenting and whatever your sound is or your desire. And of course, eventually having some chord tone knowledge to kind of outline some of these chord tones, even just within that scale, is truly the secret. That's the stuff that makes it sound good, not that you nailed the perfect scale at the perfect time, which is, again, great to work on. But that will come as a value in your playing only after you can just play through the tune, right? So what I want for you as a priority is to be able to, this song or whatever song is your favorite or whatever tune you want to work on, can you get to, as quickly as possible, the point where you could invite friends over and play through it, or go to a jam session and play through it. Not that you sound amazing on it or the best you've ever sounded or how you want to sound, but that you can play through it. And this actually sounds great. I love this. Now, the secret here is that you're still allowed to, you're treating this as D minor, but you're probably going to want to play some chromatic notes around it a little bit, or play the major 7 of D minor when it feels right, because this is targeting back to that so often. Don't stress about that. That's going to happen intuitively if you work on being able to play through the whole tune, even if you don't like the way it sounds, and slowly working on chord tone outlining, improvisation, and slowly work on exact scale changes for the complete scales. You work on all those things. Then when you come back to just playing with this, I'm just going to kind of feel all of this as a diatonic area of D natural minor, and maybe, target some chord tones a little bit here or there, or go with your ear or whatever. Or rather just not think about anything and just think, yeah, this is vaguely D minor, and I know kind of it lands here, and I know kind of it lands here. I'm talking about it as if this is all calculated, but if you work on all those individual things, it will happen naturally that you kind of think D minor, and it just works. It just feels good. It suddenly is going to feel better than ever, because you're just thinking in big musical ideas. You're actually saying something and feeling something instead of overthinking the entire time. So how awesome is it that you can just actually play D natural minor here, and then just land on this big moment that is D major. And then it really is this big difference. Okay, what do we go back to here? We can just do D natural minor again. That's kind of a stretch. These are my interpretations. This is where I say, let's water it down, because this is targeting D natural minor. This is the 4 chord of D natural minor. So I kind of like to just have that tension going there. Now you absolutely, because I don't like the sound of that, so you go ahead and do G harmonic minor here, like it says from the complete scales, right? This is just a way to get into it that works. That works as again the big broad brushstrokes. So D natural minor going through this, because that is part of D natural minor, et cetera, et cetera. It's just so much D natural minor and then the D major. It's the most like simplified scales version of a tune that seemed like it had a ton going on. So of course I'm going to demonstrate this for you, but that is the concept. Know the complete scales, know the chord tones, work on all that stuff in the laboratory of practice, understand the simplified scales version so you can just actually get through the song. And you'd be so surprised at how palatable it can be when you skip stuff, when you don't target this perfectly. You don't want to, sometimes you're going to want to target it. I love the sound of that, but I'm just saying it's actually surprisingly good sounding to just ignore that stuff. And you're not ignoring it really, because the sound of the harmony moving under you, even when you're not targeting it, has a certain emotional feel to it that is different than if you do target it. And so anyway, music, go work on all this stuff, and then go with your emotions, go with your expression. Let's demonstrate this. I will solo with just the simplified scales version so we can see how that works. lesson in this series, I give what I call an internalization tip. This is something to strengthen your overall musicianship, a way to work on a standard that increases your ability to play any other standard, just a really great music skill guitar practice. This tip for this lesson is that we want to play the melody. We're going to talk so much about playing the melody because it's how you can know where you are in the tune so much better and just actually play a version of the song and not just sound the same on every song. So we want to play the melody a lot. We want to play the melody in so many different ways that we just know it so well. It's going to help everything about our playing. So for this tip, we want to play the melody in every key through the circle of fourths in one position on the guitar. Okay, so that first phrase is just that much, not playing the rhythm, just rushing through it. So I can show you, okay, that's D minor. Next key in the circle of fourths is G minor. Okay, here's G. Okay, so you're doing it off of the next key. The next key would be C minor, and I'm in the same position. Next key would be F minor. I wouldn't do it this fast. I would really play it for real. And play it with the time. But actually, I do this sometimes too, just rush through the position, the fret spots. Like, okay, where is it? Because that's what we're getting, seeing the connection of the different key all in the same position. So that was F minor. Here would be B flat minor. Okay, next would be E flat. Oh, we can play the same physical thing we played down a half step on D at the beginning. Okay, next would be A flat minor or G sharp minor. Next would be C sharp minor. Next would be F sharp minor. Next would be B minor. Next would be E minor. Next would be A minor. And that's it. And the next one after A is, so I'm just thinking, and I just think all my theory on the fretboard. So I'm thinking, okay, here's D, and then I just know how to go D, G, G, boom, 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 boom. I'm just literally thinking of those roots visually. I don't play the piano. I don't think of it in some other way. I think of everything on the guitar. So I'm just thinking, what's circle of fourths off of D? Up a fourth, up a fourth, up a fourth, or up a fourth, down a fifth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth or down a fifth, through those roots if you want to map that out first so you know how to go through it. And then I'm sticking in just in those scale positions, or just in any scale position that is within the fourth, fifth, and sixth position on the fretboard. Actually, does go into the seventh sometimes, but this area all overlapping. So that is my internalization tip for this lesson. Very powerful for truly internalizing the melody on the guitar of any tune. I'll give you my Alone Together guitar listening recommendation in 1 second, but first you can access and download the learning resources from this whole lesson series and from my other lessons on my channel by becoming a premium supporter on my website or through Patreon. It's exactly the same on both of those places. There's a link in the description to both of those two options. You'll get PDFs of the chord progression, the scale breakdown sheets for soloing, the scale diagrams, the chord shape diagrams, and a custom-made backing track with me comping. And you'll get everything except for the melody sheet music. I can't give you that because I don't own the rights to the song, but I can give you all those other resources. But you can easily learn the melody from this video. That's why I demonstrate it so clearly with the tab on the screen. It's fine for me to teach it on the video. I just can't sell it or give it as a PDF if I don't own the melody, but I can do all the other stuff with the chord progression. Just use either of the links in the description to join and support the channel and get all those extra resources. The Patreon version is there just if you love Patreon, you already use it. It's a nice platform, but otherwise the resources and the access is exactly the same thing on my site. So either option that you want to do. Listening to the songs that we want to play is super important. It might sound really obvious, but so many of us go through phases where we're practicing, working, wanting to play music and not listening intently to music, or not listening deeply to music, and not listening seriously as a student to the music that we actually want to play. So make sure if there's a song or a tune you really want to learn, have a version of that song, a recorded version. If there's not one that exists, that's possible. Sometimes that's a whole different story, but usually there's a plenty of recorded versions for the songs we want to play. Find one that is just one that you love and commit to listening to that and absorbing it into your ears. And I have a recommendation for every tune in this series. My recommendation for Alone Together is John Abercrombie, really cool guitarist. I really like his playing, and his version of Alone Together is on an album of his called Alone Together. And there's a link to a playlist of all the listening recommendations that I have for this whole series. There's a link to that in the description. Make sure you listen to that or some other version that you really love as you're working on the song. And make sure you're subscribed, because I can't wait to see you in my next lesson from this series, which is going to be song number 15 of the top 25 jazz standards for guitar players. And that tune is going to be Black Orpheus, or also called Manhande Carnaval, or the theme from Black Orpheus. Famous jazz standard bossa nova tune. I love it so much. Can't wait to teach you that in the next video from this series. And hit that like button and leave a comment to let me know if you like this lesson. It really makes a difference and helps the video reach more people. Check out the description for all the links I've mentioned in this video. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching. Take care and happy practicing.